Unlimited cashback match. See terms at Discover.
J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Fossil fuel camps, like pipeline and oil drilling villages, are increasing violence against our indigenous sisters. Temporary workers from these camps have led to a surge in sexual assaults. In North Dakota, assaults on women rose by 75% after man camps arrived during the 2000s oil boom. We must hold big oil companies accountable for this violence and demand action. By electing leaders that prioritize the health and safety of our indigenous communities, we can fight back. Our vote is our voice. It's time to use it to protect our people, stand up for climate justice, and ensure a safe future for our next generations. Make voting a tradition, or MVAT, is about strengthening our Native communities. MVAT is here to boost our voter turnout and spark important conversations about the issues that matter most to us. Find your early voting location at sos.state.mn.us. Let's make voting a tradition so we can fight for the safety of our communities.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is often laced into illicit drugs and used to make fake versions of prescription pills. You can't see it, taste it, or smell it. Suppliers mix fentanyl into their products because it's potent and cheap. And the dealer might not even know. Keep yourself and others safe by knowing the real deal on fentanyl. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for clear skies tonight with a low around 53, Friday sunny with a high near 75, and Saturday partly cloudy with a high around 74. Looking for the perfect night out? Head to Crooner Supper Club. There's amazing shows all year long, and stop by Maggie's Lounge for cocktails and conversation. Visit croonersmn.com for more info. Crooner Supper Club, old school nightlife with a modern twist. That's Crooner Supper Club.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hit me cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake. Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local, national, Native news and events, and as you know, Chujunk, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
Yes, you are right, Dega. This portion of the show is supported by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, we have our friend Robert Lilligren on coming on soon, and then also Dr. Maureen Hackett, and we'll be talking about protecting our wolves. But before that, let's get our little weekly update from Governor Evers from the great state of Wisconsin.
Hey there, Native Roots Radio. Governor Tony Evers here with my weekly update. In my first year as governor, I was proud to sign 2 executive orders, one affirming the sovereign authority of tribal nations and another designating the second Monday of October as Indigenous Peoples Day in the state of Wisconsin. And every year on this day, we celebrate the generations of resilient tribal communities, rich cultures, languages, and traditions that have formed deep roots here since long before Wisconsin became a state. Wisconsin is home to 12 tribal nations, and as governor, maintaining a government-to-government relationship with the tribal nations will always be one of my top priorities. That's why last year I was proud to sign a state budget that made critical investments in the strength and well-being of the indigenous communities across the state, including investments to expand access to child care in tribal areas and child welfare services, support the tribal elder community food box program, and increase funding for tribal veteran services. As we reflect on everything our tribal communities have given to our state, I'm hopeful this next year that I'll be able to sign a biennial budget that will continue giving back. So today, I invite you to join me in honoring our Native nations and the immense contribution Indigenous people have made on our state. So happy Indigenous Peoples Day, Wisconsin. Thank you and take care. Back to you, Robert, and Native Roots Radio.
Thank you, Governor Evers. Always good to hear from you, and appreciate all the work you do in Wisconsin and for our Native community. I've had the opportunity to meet the governor many times over the last 3-4 years, and really appreciate his work there. And thank goodness, because he's vetoed a lot of bad bills, and I appreciate him. Hey, we have our friend Robert Lilligren from Native American Community Development Institute and a White Earth Ojibwe, and we don't hold that against him. We welcome him.
You're so kind, Robert. So kind.
To Native Roots Radio. Thanks, Robert.
Yeah, bonjour, Robert. Bonjour, Haley. Great to see you. Robert, I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I appreciated that text. And if people don't know, yesterday I jumped on the show with minutes left because I got picked up by Wendy from the I don't know what it's called, where the tow truck brings injured cars, and I was rear-ended on the freeway, and thank goodness my shoulder is the only thing that really hurts, and it's a hard deal because now it's going to cost us a lot of money. He was hit by an uninsured motorist, and the hits keep happening, but I'm doing good, and I appreciate you reaching out, Robert.
Yeah, no, good to hear you're doing okay. Take care of yourself. You gotta monitor and see. The photo you sent me of your car was terrifying, so I'm glad you're in the condition you're in today.
If it comes to brain injuries, I'm not sure if I will be able to figure that out.
Yeah,
Right? How could we tell? How could we tell?
Just kidding.
Haley jumped in there. It's
Yeah.
hard to,
We're
hard to
glad
get
you're
a
okay.
it's hard to get a word out of Haley, except some some things she doesn't.
Only when we're picking on you.
Yeah.
Well,
Are we losing
yeah,
our
so
Wi-Fi connection?
are you losing me? My
Yeah, Rob.
Wi-Fi is a little sketchy.
Yeah, we just missed that whole sentence. I think we love seeing you, so I wonder, but do you mind turning up your camera?
Oh,
I
sure.
think that helps.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you sound great now. We'll pop
Okay.
up a picture of you. Cool.
All right. I know I look way better in that picture anyway. But I was just telling you, nice. We missed you at the Metropolitan Council last night. I know you were set to read out in public for the first time our newly crafted commitment to land, water, and people in this region. Allison, liaison staff person, did a great job stepping in, but it wasn't the same without you, but I'm glad you're taking care of yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Robert, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate the work you do and how inclusive. I just got to jokingly say this, but how inclusive Ho-Chunk has been with the Met Council, and being a part of that means a great deal for me and future generations.
Great. Well, as an elected Ho-Chunk legislator, I appreciate that comment. And Ho-Chunks are called out. Of course, the land of Dakota, Ojibwe. Also, the other Native people who live within the metro, it calls it 150 tribes that live within our metropolitan area. And so this is a big step forward for our regional government here. I'm honored to be the first Native person that serves on the Metropolitan Council, and it's just been a thrill to create this kind of access to bring the caliber of people that have come in and advised us on this work.
Well, and meeting not only what Met Council does just blew my mind, and here I've been
Sure.
a person that was in the Twin Cities, and I hear things about Met Council through the news, but seeing all the work that they do and how they're really intertwined with the 7-county area in Minnesota
Mhm.
amazed me.
Yeah, cool. It's good to hear you say that. And I've been in front of a lot of groups lately, just sort of doing Met Council, introduction to Met Council. And it's incredible how little people know about this very important unit of government within our region. The biggest thing we do is run our regional wastewater treatment, and we do it very, very well. We also run our transit system here. We do that very, very well, but it touches everyone's lives and nobody really knows anything about it. And this is from people who are deeply engaged and to people who are very grassroots. And so the more, Robert, I think the better it is for our region.
Yeah, and also really impressed with the members like yourself, but to be able to hear them speak and listen to again, we talked about Dr. Kate Bean's presentation to the Met Council, and the feedback was amazing and very, very progressive. I was very happy to hear that.
It was so positive, and I was hoping that there were a couple. I just really want you who are leading this work, how much activity is going on inside the Met Council, and in the short term, looking at immediate 2025 budget measures that we can take, to the very, very long term, how we can incorporate this work into our 2050 comprehensive planning, to all things between, and all of the incredible American Indian Advisory Council members to carry that back to your circles and your ecosystems, that this is not just sitting on the shelf. From Met Council members to senior leadership to executive leadership to departmental leadership, everyone is digging into this work, and they are thrilled to have it.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's totally amazing. We're losing you every once in a while. I wonder if it would be better, Haley, if we called Robert.
Yeah,
I could send one thing I can try to do as well is I'll go onto my hotspot and go off the Wi-Fi here, and that might help.
It's not that kind of show. My
Wi-Fi hotspot.
All right, we'll be right back with Robert Lilligren and Native Roots Radio, Haley and I. Stay with us.
When we heal from our traumas,
when we face our fears,
let go of our addictions,
when we relearn our values,
when we live our teachings,
respecting our elders,
cherishing and honoring our children,
when we honor and take care of our spirit,
there will be no room left for sexual violence.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune into Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Everyone likes a litter-free ride on Metro Transit buses and trains, so pitch in. Take pride in your ride and take your trash off with you when you get off at your stop. You'll find trash bins at every Metro station. Want to help clean up transit stops in your neighborhood? Join the hundreds who volunteer to adopt a stop and keep it picked up. Learn more at metrotransit.org/adopt-a-stop. That's metrotransit.org/adopt-a-stop.
Make voting a tradition empowers Native American communities through civic engagement. For nearly a decade, MVAT has increased voter turnout by encouraging friends, family, and neighbors to get involved. By building trust and community engagement, MVAT ensures Native voices help shape the future. This election season, voting is easier than ever. Minnesota voters can cast their ballots early so elders and busy voters can avoid the rush of Election Day. Find your nearest polling location at sos.state.mn.us and let's make voting a tradition for future generations.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
Community Development Institute, or NACDI, in Minneapolis.
Hey, we are with the CEO and President, Robert Lilligren of Native American Community Development Institute here in Minnesota, the Twin Cities. And we are really happy. Let's hear you, Robert, to see how that hotspot's working.
Well, I have on my hotspot, but I also am getting patched into my phone.
Cool. Well, you sound good. You sound really good.
Okay, cool.
Cool. Hey, do you mind just to mentioning, we missed a few things that you did say about the Met Council, and after I said something about really happy that Ho Chunk's involved with this work.
Yeah, cool. So, sorry you missed those things. They were brilliant. But one of the things I was saying is that that not only we're recognizing Ho Chunk, but of course Dakota, Ojibwe, and I think really significantly the 150 tribes that are represented within our metropolitan area population.
Yeah, I was blown away that there was that many, and I think we got that information from Minneapolis Public Schools, and also we talked about the number of urban Indians reaching roughly around 78,000, which was the first I heard that, but I believe it.
Oh yeah, it's such a robust community, and again, I feel like one of my roles as a third generation Minneapolis urban Indian is to try to bring awareness to this, right? There's a distinct identity of urban Indian people in our region, in our state, in our country, and this group needs to be engaged in government and in resource conversations and things.
Absolutely. Well, let's swing here to how many days do we have left here? I have voted. Wendy and I have already voted. Haley's already voted. I want to find out how on the day of the election that I can help and take people to the polls. So I got to find a group that does that. But happy that I voted already.
Yeah, good for you. Good for Wendy. I love voting on election day. I do it first thing. I'm usually one of the first people at the polls, so it frees up the rest of my day to do get out the vote work. And so, and if you're looking for someone to connect you to that, let me know. Or there's lots of ways to get involved, getting people to the polls.
Yeah, I'll reach out to you because I think that's what Wendy and I really want to do. I want to take the day off and really help out and make sense, because I, like you, Robert, I love voting the day of, but I want to be able to do some things like you're going to do during the day of, because it's so important.
Cool. Well, through Make Voting a Tradition that Haley was talking about, we'll be doing that all day. Polls open to polls closed. So you could always help out there. We'd welcome you. And then I read this commentary recently that really kind of made me think, because I have voted early, but I do prefer to vote on election day. And but someone said they were voting early in case there were some events or emergencies that disrupted voting on election day. I was like, oh gosh, I've never really thought of that before. But in this day and age, it's a possibility, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we just don't know. I really believe if we all get out and vote, I've been saying this for quite a few cycles here, that we outnumber them. And I'm not afraid. The thing that kind of bothers me and what your organizations are doing and the other organizations across the country, but make voting a tradition is, we have a quarter of the people of this country, eligible voters that are mega people.
Right.
And we have to really come out in numbers because not everybody feels the way that they do. And that's only a quarter of the country. We have three quarters of the country that are sensible, nice people.
Right, right. And getting out the vote is key, right? And so there's some beautiful things happening. I'm sure you saw Georgia's first day of early voting. They blew the records off the charts, almost 100% more than the previous record. And so we're seeing these kinds of things. 50% of the people are going to vote early. And I think that favors Democrats, and we'll see. And then once the election's over, then the hard part happens, right?
Yeah.
With the challenges and everything. So between November 5th and Inauguration Day, I think it's going to be rough, right? So
I agree. And the orange one has been telling him not to vote early. He wants him to vote on election day. So it always seems what his strategy is that he will be leading in some states, and then the counting vote, which I believe, I could be wrong, Robert, but Pennsylvania doesn't count their mail-in votes until the next day.
Next day, right.
And so then it makes it appear that there's all this bad stuff because most people that are voting early are Democrat, and then all of a sudden they lose the state. So that's a weird setup.
Right. It is a weird setup, but states set their rules, right? We follow them. And, that's a lot better than what they were trying to do in states like Arizona, where they had to count every ballot, or Georgia, we'd have to count every ballot, right? And that was just so chaos in getting the results and stuff. So in my opinion, the sooner we get them, the better, get the results, the better, and then we can respond.
Exactly. And I'm nervous, but it's a good nervousness, and I believe the polls out there are incorrect because they're not counting these new voters that are pouring in like they did in Georgia, which was almost 400,000 voters.
Right. Agree. And you have to kind of look beneath the poll numbers, right? Overall, Harris is ahead 3% nationally, and that's not a huge amount. But there's just all this dynamic underneath that, and there has been since she entered the race, that for me continue to feed hope and a little bit of joy. So I will take that, but I agree with you. I don't think the polls straight up are really telling us the whole story right now.
Well, and one of the deals too is what I heard in a national broadcast was that they were so wrong 2016 that they automatically across the board give Trump another 3 or to 4% bump. So they're not wrong and they're valid as a poll business, I suppose. But
sure,
I heard that and I was like, wow, I've never heard that before. Have you heard anything like that?
Interesting. Well, and also just this really unusual, erratic behavior by Trump as a candidate. He's not doing any interviews. He stood on stage for 39 minutes without saying anything and just dancing to music. I mean, this is not normal.
No, and I say shame on the press because they're not really calling this out. They really don't call it out.
Agree.
And that's interesting because they've normalized a lot of this crazy stuff and the things that he says.
Right, by just not challenging it, right? And I do love to see that from Harris on down, people are challenging it now, and calling it out as not normal and not productive and not what we want from our elected officials, even Republicans, right? And so I think it feels different from 2016 and 2020 because some people at least are willing to challenge him.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And that was interesting. She did her own media work where she played what he was saying during a rally, and that got really good feedback on the mass media.
I thought it was great. I'd never seen anything quite like that before at the presidential level. I thought it was exactly the right thing to do. And I was talking to another sort of experienced local politician about it. And Peter McLaughlin, a former Hennepin County Commissioner here and a member of the board of Native American Community Development Institute. And he made this point, and we've all participated in dozens, scores, hundreds of political conventions at every level. And you can have a speaker up there and people pay a certain level of attention. But when you put a video on stage, people quiet down and listen and pay attention. So I thought that was a brilliant strategy.
And also it made the news, so that even really helps because, as the vice president says, listen to one of his rallies, watch one of his rallies.
Right.
And he's unhinged.
He is. It's very scary that he has the level of support that he has, and I can't wait till Election Day and to move beyond this.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got like a minute left, Robert, and I'm going to give you just a minute here to spit out anything you want about what's happening on the Avenue or with you.
Well, there is a ton happening on the Avenue, which is great, and but I guess I just want to. This is kind of macro, 40,000 foot perspective, but one of the things that's happening is in the system, whether it's government, philanthropy, whether it's around issues of homelessness and housing or arts and culture, but there just seems to be this momentum and excitement around supporting Native voices, centering Native voices, putting Native voices in the lead. And it's a different day, Robert. And I've really had to recalibrate my thinking and realize not everything has to be a fight every second of the day. How do we leverage this new interest, this new momentum? And so that's what I'm focusing on right now.
That's amazing. And the work that Native American Community Development Institute does should be mirrored across the country. And we really appreciate you coming on and telling what's going on and supporting Native Roots Radio as you do.
Miigwech, very kind.
Right on. Hey, we'll see you next week, Robert. This is Native
right.
Roots Radio present I'm Awake.
Take care.
Indigenous communities are on the front lines of air pollution. Pipelines, mines, and waste incinerators are often built near our homes, harming Mother Earth and our health. The result? Higher rates of asthma, diabetes, heart disease, and other serious health problems. In the Twin Cities, air pollution disproportionately affects Native and Black communities. Indigenous Minnesotans, especially in the metro, experience over twice the rate of asthma compared to white Minnesotans. This pollution affects our quality of life and the future of our children. In Minneapolis, our vote helped close the Smith Foundry and bituminous roadways. Let's continue using our vote to fight for climate justice. Make voting a tradition, or MVAT, empowers Native communities by increasing voter turnout and supporting conversations about critical issues like clean air, water, and health. By getting involved, we shape the policies that protect our families and environment. Find your nearest polling location at sos.state.mn.us. Let's make voting a tradition for future generations.
Everyone likes a litter-free ride on Metro Transit buses and trains, so pitch in. Take pride in your ride and take your trash off with you when you get off at your stop. You'll find trash bins at every Metro station. Want to help clean up transit stops in your neighborhood? Join the hundreds who volunteer to adopt a stop and keep it picked up. Learn more at metrotransit.org/adopt-a-stop. That's metrotransit.org/adopt-a-stop.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States.
And 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected.
Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf.
Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy.
As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired.
Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
As we age, it's important to invest in our health and to help protect it. Like the flu, COVID-19 is always changing. That's why it's important to stay up to date on your vaccines. By getting the flu and COVID-19 vaccines, you can renew your body's defenses and lower the risk of getting sick. Get your health boost and protect yourself against the flu and COVID. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. Again, that's vaccines.gov. Vaccines.gov.
J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
ATNF AM 950, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
This Halloween, Open Eye Theater cast a spell on audiences with Broomstick, starring Twin Cities' favorite Cheryl Willis in an electrifying solo performance as a village witch with dark secrets. Her haunting tale of love, loss, and hair-raising vengeance she wreaks upon those who have crossed her will leave you breathless. Laugh, scream, and experience a spine-tingling Halloween adventure. Broomstick is playing now through October 31st. Get tickets at openeyetheater.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for clear skies tonight with a low around 53, Friday sunny with a high near 75, and Saturday partly cloudy with a high around 74. Get ready to dance the night away with Sophie Tucker. Tomorrow at the Armory in Minneapolis, experience the Grammy-nominated duo behind the hit single Best Friend and their electrifying jungle pop sound. Tickets are going fast. Grab yours now at Ticketmaster.com. Don't miss Sophie Tucker live at the Armory tomorrow.
Hi, this is Governor Walz. Thank you for listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Strong Hearts Native Helpline. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and Strong Hearts offers culturally appropriate support and advocacy for Native Americans. You can call or text them at 1-844-7-NATIVE or chat online at strongheartshelpline.org.
Hey, we have Dr. Maureen Hackett on, president and founder of Howling for Wolves. And when I say Howling for Wolves, I always want to howl. Hey, ho! Yes. Right on. Great to see you. We're revving up here again. It's perfect time to have you on and talk about our sacred animal, the wolf.
Yes. Well, a lot's been happening with the wolf kind of behind the scenes since we last spoke. Howling for Wolves has had a fairly busy summer. Today, of all days, our board member and scientist, Roman Olinik, who I will say publicly is my husband, presented at the Great Lakes Wolf Symposium in Ashland, Wisconsin. And he presented a paper that he published in Nature that was peer-reviewed that basically showed the data the DNR collected proves that wolf hunting increases human-caused wolf deaths through illegal killing and all kinds of other ways, but there was more than 3.5 times human-caused wolf deaths after the hunt started in 2012. So basically, we're saying at Howling for Wolves, we don't need a wolf hunt. We need to leave them alone, let them mature. They will control their own numbers based on availability of food, habitat, and us humans can leave them alone. So he spent 4 days at that conference, and he said he was one of the only speakers that was against wolf hunting. And that included people from the DNRs in the states of Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota. Although I won't speak for Michigan. I think Michigan has been good and stayed on the sidelines of hunting. But there just has been, something called the Timber Wolf Alliance that really sponsored this conference, and they featured an opening presentation by somebody named Francine Madden, who is putting together a national wolf recovery. I can't tell if it's a plan that she's in charge of. I don't think so. I think she's in charge of possibly developing the PR for the plan, but it's working as a consultant for Fish and Wildlife Service. So bottom line is there's this narrative that you can't have wolves unprotected without having a hunt. And Howling for Wolves is doing our best to demonstrate that that is not true. And we think we made some progress at this conference today.
Wow, that's great. Seriously, I just think of when I cringe when I hear about Wisconsin's hunt and how bloody that was, and how quickly they went way past the limit, and I just have like bad feelings about that whole thing.
Well, I'll tell you what, something that I've been trying to get the word out, and I think it really affects politicians when they hear it, is that the state of Utah has been sponsoring much of the anti-wolf sentiment or the worries about wolves and deer. And they definitely sponsored the Hunter Nation person who did the lawsuits in Wisconsin that got that hunt going. Don Payey is his name, P-A-E-Y. But the Salt Lake City Times had a whole article that even the International Wolf Center posted to, showing how the legislature in Utah had funded $5 million over 10 years toward sowing essentially anti-wolf sentiment or pro-delisting sentiment in the Midwest amongst deer hunters. If you can believe that, it's true. I mean, it's true, actually. It's outside money coming in from another state because the state of Utah does not want free wolves, does not want recovered wolves. They always petition to delist wolves. They're part of the lawsuits. They're part of the appeal. They're in all the court documents, and they have funded, as I said, $5 million over 10 years to create bad PR for the wolf in the Midwest, because this is where the wolves never went extinct, and this is where the most wolves are. So once the politicians hear that, you know, a lot of this anti-wolf stuff media last winter was funded by the state of Utah, it clicks. Oh, why am I believing all this? It's really just another marketing scheme to get rid of wolves. That's one big issue. And we're working behind the scenes, though, to try to get the DNR to do something. And I think we made progress. And that is, in the state of Minnesota, when wolves lose protection, there will be Zone B still in law. And Zone B is 2/3 of the state of Minnesota, where wolves can be killed just for thinking you might have a problem. So the wolf plan recommended to eliminate Zone B so that wolves would only be lethally controlled where they were causing conflicts and actual damage. And so everybody agreed, but it wasn't taken out of law. And I think you noticed in the letter I shared with you that I wrote to the DNR on September 6th, my concerns about going to the legislature and removing Zone B. And the response from the DNR, it seemed like they were acknowledging that issue. They didn't say they were going to the legislature, but they did say something to the effect of, I don't know, you may have it right in front of you, Robert, but they mentioned that Zone B was an issue. And I thought that would be a huge, huge piece of protecting wolves, because even without a hunt, Zone B is going to eliminate them, or at least keep them in a corner of the state where they don't necessarily need to be penned in.
Wow. I you know, we love having you on here, but we have so many other listeners that are new, and we're all over Turtle Island. Can you just do me a quick favor and tell our audience what drew you to this work?
Oh my goodness, I don't really know. No. It's deep. Well, I was always a wildlife advocate. I mean, I was hunting frogs when I was a little kid. You know, I was always like trying to find a remnant. And I mean, seriously, just little remnants of woods in Ohio. I was where I was born, and Midwest, you know, outside of Chicago. I didn't move to Minnesota till I was in my 30s. I heard that Minnesota was such a beautiful, and I'd been here for a wedding, and I wanted to be in the Midwest after getting out of the military. So I had heard, it just kind of is in the subconscious, that Minnesota had such wild places. There were actually wild wolves. I remember hearing that and thinking that, wow, that's really neat. But what really drew me, I think, was the fact that Minnesota had a consensus-based wolf plan. And while it wasn't the best wolf plan, I wasn't even participating, didn't know much about it, other than that there would not be a wolf hunt for at least 5 years following the delisting. And the more I learned about the wolf plan, the more I realized the reason we have Zone B is because the wolf advocates said to the anti-wolf people, we'll allow for all this wolf killing, but we can't have a hunt. They allowed all this wolf killing, and the reason they were supposed to have a 5-year moratorium wasn't because we should start hunting them in 5 years, was because we needed to at least wait that long and see what's happening with the Zone B and the issue of you can kill them so easily when they're not protected. So they just kind of said time served, time for a hunt, lined out the 5-year moratorium. And I was very heavily involved in politics. And I had done some stuff at the legislature to pass bills involving mental health and smoking. We can go into that another time, smoking tobacco in state hospital grounds. So I knew my way around the legislature. I knew my way around politics. And when I heard they were having a committee hearing on the wolf hunt in February of 2012, I just went. And when I was there, I realized this was a done deal. This is going to happen. And the best I can hope for it is to let everybody know. And then I started Howling for Wolves. I looked for inspiration and I started Howling for Wolves. We had a TV ad on the air March 22nd of that year with a name, with talk about a manic episode. But anyway, so I would say the environment and democracy. I know that sounds really, kind of weird, but I know it's also about humanity. The way the hunt turns on wolf killing is not a pleasant thing. It's a wolf hate. It's a sentiment that is bad for humankind. It's inhumane. It's humanity's bad side when you kill wolves in both cruel ways and for pleasure. And that's all it is. It's to conquer this gentle, humble animal. And it's really if we're ever going to get over ourselves, I think we have to learn to tolerate an animal such as the wolf as best we can. It's a really good exercise in our humanity and that in how we treat each other. So I really kind of see all of that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And as a Native American, we've talked about this many times, how thousands of years ago, natives watched the wolves and the clans and who the leaders were, and really incorporated into a lot of nations out there, including here in Minnesota.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why I say the population, if you just leave them alone, they establish territories, they have, connections to each other. They have to, because they work as a social group. And they have to figure out how to resolve some of their issues. And sometimes it's not pleasant between wolves, for sure. But we have eliminated them so much. I think we owe them that, to just see if we can leave them alone and where they can live and observe it, instead of automatically reacting aggressively and with lethal force. When we have the lethal force, no problem. It is not a problem to kill wolves. It's a problem to let them live. And I think it's a good problem that we need to kind of develop as a society and work on it. I think we're making progress. I would say we're making progress with the politicians for sure. I was blown away, Robert. I had spoken actually to Governor Dayton before President Biden resigned, 3 days before President Biden resigned. Wow. And yes. And I think if we had passed that bill, he would have signed it.
Wow. Hey, we're here with Dr. Maureen Hackett, and we're the founder of Howling for Wolves, and we're going to take a quick break here and talk more about that. This is Native Roots Radio.
As we age, it's important to invest in our health and to help protect it. Like the flu, COVID-19 is always changing. That's why it's important to stay up to date on your vaccines. By getting the flu and COVID-19 vaccines, you can renew your body's defenses and lower the risk of getting sick. Get your health boost and protect yourself against the flu and COVID. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. Again, that's vaccines.gov. Vaccines.gov.
The Minneapolis Institute of Art is featuring the art and legacy of Jody Falwell, a groundbreaking potter from Cabo Owinga, New Mexico. Over the past 50 years, Falwell has revolutionized Pueblo pottery and native art by weaving in personal, political, and social stories into her pieces. Her exhibition titled Opawa Omung shows the incredible range of her work and the impact she's had on both native and contemporary American art. You can check it out at MIA through January. For more info, visit artsmia.org.
Voting rights matter, and it's important to know where you stand. In Minnesota, if you're not currently in prison, you can vote, even with a felony conviction. For nearly 10 years, Make Voting a Tradition, or MVAT, has empowered Native American communities by increasing voter turnout and encouraging conversations about the issues that matter. Together, they're making sure every voice is heard and counted. Find your early voting location at sos.state.mn.us. Let's make voting a lasting tradition for generations.
Every day, our people suffer at the hand of domestic and sexual violence. But you are sacred and deserve to be safe in your own home. Strong Hearts Native Helpline is here to help. Native-centered, empowerment-based, trauma-informed advocates offer safety, sovereignty, and support. Call or text 844-7NATIVE. To chat online, visit www.strongheartshelpline.org. Reach out today.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Oh, Dr. Hackett, get down. That was a good one. Hey, we're here with Dr. Maureen Hackett, president and founder of Howling for Wolves. And wow, we're talking about some good news that finally we're reaching our political friends and they're listening, and that's a good thing. And that really says a lot about you and your work and your organization's work.
I think it also says a lot about the upcoming generation. You know, it was a matter of trying to protect, and unfortunately we don't have data. Maybe it's better in the last few years, but the illegal killing was so high. I can't really say that, you know, it's generated into less illegal killing, but it has generated the possibility of changing the state's Department of Natural Resources attitudes about a wolf hunt. I know we've definitely made people stop and think. And I know that the legislators, the House members in the State House of Minnesota and the Senate, all pretty much who voted to prohibit wolf hunting, they don't have regrets about that vote. You know, they haven't had backlash either. They know it's the right way to go. And I'll tell you a conversation I had with Angie Craig. I want to put a shout out to her. She voted no on the environment bill that was passed. You can find all this stuff actually on our website at howlingforwolves.org. We have an election center, and we tell everybody how different people voted. And Angie Craig voted no on this environmental bill that the House passed very barely, where they were going to delist wolves. But the Senate, the U.S. Senate, did not take this bill. So the wolves are still safe from Congress delisting them. But Angie Craig said she voted that way because she thought it was the right thing to do. She's in a very purple district that is very difficult. She has to fight every year to keep her seat. So for her to say that really is huge shout out to the wolf. I think people are getting it. So what we need to do is get more funding for non-lethal methods, so that when people talk about a hunt, if we get all these non-lethal methods out there to prevent conflicts, you don't want to do a hunt on wolves because it works against non-lethal methods. It creates chaos in hopefully a population of wolves that you've kind of developed a boundary with. You've kind of trained them over generations. That's what you hope to do, that this property is not where to go, and that's using non-lethal methods. When you keep killing them randomly, you end up having to retrain new wolves about the boundaries. So at some point, it'll be very wasteful to have a wolf hunt, if nothing else, although I think it's unethical, cruel, and very, very high risk and harmful to the most genetically diverse wolf population that we have in the United States in the lower 48, which is here in Minnesota. So anyway, I will stop talking there.
No, that's cool. I think that the story about when they put those wolves into Yellowstone Park is worth repeating again, because that's where it's really at for me. Is that's the proof in the pudding. I don't know, Dr. Hackett, do you mind repeating that story for our listeners?
Well, first of all, Doug Smith, who was he used to work for U.S. Federal government at Yellowstone, was part of the reintroduction, and he just appeared at the Ordway 2 weeks ago. And he basically gave the whole presentation again. You know, there are a lot of things maybe happening simultaneously, but at the time, I visited Yellowstone in 2004, and 2 scientists were coming there every year before wolves were introduced in 95. They had already developed, and basically the trees, there were no middle-aged trees. There were young trees and really old trees, but no middle-aged trees. And along the river, there was a lot of erosion, and basically the water was warm, and there wasn't a lot of food for beaver. And so as soon as the wolves came in, they basically were moving the ungulates, they call them, the elk, if they have deer there, and even maybe the buffalo, but mostly the elk. Moving them away from the banks of the river so that you got much more vegetation growing. And you call this a trophic cascade, meaning this predator affects everything right down to the soil and allows the growth of vegetation to support everything, birds, insects, and beaver. And then the water gets cooler because the beaver are damming it up, and now you have better fish. So basically, Yellowstone was revitalized after having wiped out wolves in 1926. And with the introduction, you had better vegetation, and you really didn't have a problem with numbers of wolves. In some areas of their hunting zones, they're above quota. But what you had was the elk weren't hanging out in the valleys anymore and just kind of lazing about and eating everything.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I love that story, and it makes so much sense. They're part of the ecosystem that's so important to everything.
Do you know it took like 25 years to get those wolves released into Yellowstone? I mean, it was an idea in the 60s or 70s, and it took hard work to finally get it done. And the Secretary of Interior at the time was Bruce Babbitt. The president was Bill Clinton. And I think, well, 95, wait a minute, he was in 92. So, yeah, he even visited, they showed a slide of him visiting Yellowstone, and basically Doug Smith did a great presentation about all the people he would speak to about this issue who wanted to see the wolves of Yellowstone and what it's done for the economy there and for the tourism industry. It's just, it was something they didn't predict. They didn't predict that these people would come out and study wolves from afar, telescopic lenses, and follow them and watch them and get to know them so well.
Wow, that's amazing. And I always want to remind our listeners too that possibly our next governor is with the Wolf Clan. Like, I'm Eagle Clan in my tribe, and she is a Wolf Clan, and I always like to bring that up.
And I like to say, I've already, I had a little meeting with the governor's office after I sent the letter to the DNR. I sent a copy to the governor's office, and then I had a meeting with the governor's office about things that need to be done to protect wolves and by the DNR. But what I emphasized to the assistant working at the governor's office was that no matter who is governor, they can feel confident that the people of Minnesota do not want a wolf hunt. And the people of Minnesota value wolves as an asset. 79% per our poll in 2013 value the wolf as an asset. So whomever is governor, and I hope it's Peggy Flanagan in the future. Of course, we will keep walls, but we don't want to keep walls. He's got to get out there and do bigger things. I think that they need to know the people are behind them, and I think they know it now. I think everybody knows it.
Right. So I got we have a minute left. I would really like a call to action, whether it's sending people to your website.
Well, I'll tell you what, everybody, go vote early. You can look at our election center on our website, howlingforwolves.org. It'll tell who in the House voted what way. And frankly, all the Democrats voted to prohibit wolf hunting, and one Republican did too in the House, named Andrew Meyer out of Lake Minnetonka. And then in the Senate, you can see how they voted to prohibit wolf hunting, but they're not up for election. At the federal level, all the Democrats in Minnesota, Congress people, voted against that environment bill. That makes it simple. And, go door knocking, go vote. Jen Schultz, if we could take Stauber out, that would be the best thing we could do for wolves. Go help Jen Schultz. Get people to door knock in Senate District or CD, Congressional District 8 with Jen Schultz running. That's a great thing too. So, just check out our website. You can look at the data on illegal wolf killing. And you can contribute. We'd love that too, or recommend us to places that have money, howlingforwolves.org. And I think we've done pretty well.
You have. Thank you so much, Dr. Maureen Hackett, founder of Howling for Wolves. We're still here. We are the 7th generation.
And free Leonard Peltier now. The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio.